Hi guys, Chris here with a rather large box here that contains the Xiaomi Mi Notebook 13, the Mi Notebook Air 13.3-inch model, which is the more powerful model that I think most people have been more interested in seeing. So this one has a dedicated Nvidia 940MX GPU with 1GB of RAM. Only 1GB, I know, it should have a little bit more, but that's what we've got. At least it is double data rate 5 and not slower double data rate 3, like I think some models do have of that particular GPU. Anyway, it has a Core i5 6200, and that is a lot faster. That's a similar chipset that you find, for example, in the Surface Pro 4. It's got 8GB of RAM and a 256GB SSD. So let's have a look inside this box here, which I got this one from gearbest.com. So you can see they have packaged it up really well. They've used an enormous box. I think the actual box is only about half the size of this thing, so I don't know why they use such a big one, but all the better, less chance of it getting damaged there. So I'm going to pull it open from the side there and let's have a look at it. Okay, so there is the outer housing box there. Hopefully that looks like it actually is still factory sealed. That's good. Now I expect the operating system is going to be in Chinese, just like the Mi Notebook 12.5 edition that I looked at there. So I'll get this open now, cut the seals. No, yeah, this hasn't been opened, which is good. So I'm the first one to get into it. Now, often when you buy a lot of tech from China, what a lot of the sellers do on AliExpress is they open it up, they do what they call their after-sale inspection, check it's got no faults, put it in English if it's in Chinese. So, there we go. So such a huge box for a 13.3-inch notebook. So well packaged up, that is good to see. Of course, coming all the way from China, you'd want it to be. So, there's no further seals on there. Well, there is one seal, and in fact, that seal there is broken. So maybe someone has had a look at it. So let's get this open. That in the back, so it's fully sealed up in plastic wrap here. It looks exactly the same as the Notebook 12.5, the Mi Notebook 12.5 version, same exact styling. So there's just information here in this leaflet. That is actually just all in Chinese. Yes, so that's just all in Chinese. So I'll just toss that aside. And here is our power adapter. So it does have quick charging. This thing can charge really fast, like 50% in only 30 minutes, which is quite impressive. So there we go. That is rated to the same as the, actually no, it's a bit more powerful. This one, this is 65 watts max, 3.25 amps at 20 volts is the maximum there for the quick charging. All right. Let's get it out of its wrapper. Now, no one's touched this. This is still all wrapped up nicely. All right, now if it's like its smaller little brother, I should be able to open this with just one hand. Oh, just, yes, that is good. And then you'll see the same keyboard layout, very similar. It looks like it has almost the same, I'd say that's the same trackpad as well. So at the front there is a 1.3 megapixel camera. And you'll see here that there's no logo on the rear of this, so no logos whatsoever. And I actually quite like this. A lot of people don't, they want to see the logo there. But that means you can customize it yourself. You can put a laser etching on top of the lid if you want. You can put stickers on there, which Xiaomi are also selling for this particular model. So there we see on the right hand side we have a status LED, USB Type-C with data, that's for charging to, USB 3 port, and on the left side here We have a HDMI, full-size one, another USB 3, and the 3.5mm headphone jack, which supports microphones too, of course. And you'll see on the back, it's got Nvidia there. It has the Windows logo and AKG speakers. So there's a grill along here. That's for the fans. That's where the intake is. So you don't want to block that, having that on top of your lap or anything like that. And these downward firing speakers are the same as the smaller version. So they should sound pretty good. So let's get this thing powered up and have a look at it in greater detail. Backlit keyboard, of course. It has no actual levels to it. So it's either on or off. That fired up quite quick there, and you can see, as expected, there is a lot of Chinese here. It's all in Chinese. Now I might be able to install English, but what I found with the 12.5-inch Core M version is that when I installed the English pack, that we still had, for example, the start menu and things still had Chinese characters there, which wasn't great, and I wasn't very happy with that. So what I had to do is do a complete clean install of Windows 10, which maybe I might have to do here, but first I'll have to take a driver's dump of that. So there's still a few things I can look at, even though it's all in Chinese. There's some things I do understand here. So there we go, free space. It has 211 gigabytes free there. So I'll just show you system here. Managed to find that in Chinese. So you can see we have 8 gigabytes of RAM installed. That is double data rate 4. Now, there is only 7.9 usable, so 100 megabytes has system reserved for something, probably something to do with the GPU, I imagine. Now, that would be activated, and of course, this is the Chinese Windows version, so I'm going to have to do a complete clean install, do a driver's dump, redo everything I can see, because what happened is when I had the Core M version, I installed an English language pack, but it still came up with some icons, while the start and restart was still in Chinese, and I was not happy at all with that. So you need to factor that in. You're probably going to need a Windows 10 license on top of the cost of this already. So device manager, very quickly bring this up. And if I can find the devices I want to look at here, I'll just have to go by the icons. So here is the solid state drive, is a 256 gigabyte Samsung. That is an NVMe. And there's the model there if you want to check that out. Have a look at the specs of that. 100% volume. Not screen. So I had the mobile network signal was in the green most of the time. Wireless was on. You see the screen on and awake. Not in greater detail. So that sounds good. Not too bad. So the front of the device has scratch resistant glass. It has 2.5D. Lights off to show you the screen a little better. The viewing angles of it. Being an IPS panel, they should be really good. You can see there. If the colors are shifting out, I think it's happening on camera because I can't see it. The colors aren't. No, they're not shifting up for me. And let's have a look. There's the vertical angles. Doesn't look too bad. And you can see there's that keyboard now fully illuminated, which does look really nice. So it's individual LEDs lighting up each of those keys along there. And it looks great. Now the main feature of this notebook is the hardware because it does have a dedicated GPU. Now it's not a very powerful one because it's only a 940MX, and then you can see that's the drivers there, obviously all in Chinese, so I'm going to have to correct that later on when I install Windows 10. So it only has 1 gigabyte of dedicated graphics, which isn't a lot for the most demanding games nowadays, but I will test out some titles like Fallout 4 and maybe even Witcher 3 to see how it can perform there. Maybe we're probably going to have to lower those resolution down to 720p, I imagine, and the settings too to get playable frame rates. But I will be checking that out in detail, as well as fan noise and thermals and temperatures having such a thin design. Speaking of the fan, I haven't heard it. Not yet. It hasn't come on. So it looks like it's a similar arrangement now you see with most modern notebooks, that if it's not doing anything demanding like idle, those fans will just turn off. So that is good. So at the moment it's silent, and I will go into depth of that later on in the review, or possibly some separate videos in the series of videos I record on this, just to check out and see how loud it's going to sound. Now for those interested, I decided I'll just quickly power up the GPU Z here and have a look and see. So you can see the GPU clock rates there. And it only has, yes, as mentioned, that 1 GB of RAM. So it is double data rate 5. Hynix RAM, which is a reasonably good brand there. So checking out the weight of it, it comes in at 1.249 kilos. So not a bad weight for 13.3 inch device. And I'll just have a look and see the thickness at the front of it and mid-body as well. So the front is about 11 millimeters there. And in the middle, where the CPU cooler is and everything, where I think it's going to be about the thickest, that is 14 millimeters exactly. So that's not bad. So quite thin, quite light. Now to quickly mention the keyboard, it's exactly the same basically as the 12.5 version, but just a little bit wider. So the spacing is a tiny bit better there of the keys. It has a very good feel to it. If I press down really hard there, you'll see there's a little bit of flex, but not much at all. Backlit, of course, just like the other model. And the feedback of it is good. We get 1.3 millimeters of travel. Now the touchpad, nice and large. It has a very smooth glass-like feel to it. Very accurate. It's a Synaptics pad, and it does have adjustable where you can change the gestures. You can disable them, add custom ones as well with the software. And if I just close the lid very quickly, no logo. I feel that's a good thing. It's a minimalistic look to it, and there is really no flex on the top of that because of the glass. It feels very solid. That does not flex in, just rock solid. Now, if you're someone that likes to use notebooks, laptops on your actual lap, this is the furthest the screen will recline. So it does go back a reasonable amount, but not as much as some models do, which can go almost completely flat. So here the two models are together. And on the left, that's the Core M, the 12.5 inch model. So if you want something that is fanless, completely noise free, and is going to offer better battery life, that's probably the model to go for. It is also about $400 US cheaper. Now the one that has a dedicated GPU is the 13.3 inch model, which is on the right there. And the battery life won't be as good, even though it does have a slightly larger battery. I can say straight away without even testing it, I know that it's not going to be as good as a Core M because, well, the difference there in power consumption of the wattage of the CPUs. And that is also a lot more expensive. It's about $910-15 US at the time of this video. Now it is of course larger just by a little bit, and we do get that extra USB 3 port, which is very handy to have on the more expensive model. And here at the front of the machines, you'll see that the more expensive 13-inch one is about 1 to 2 millimeters thicker there on the front. There's not really much in it. And the port layout on the right side is exactly the same. So the Type-C port, the USB 3 port, and the status LED there. So I'm just running Crystal Disk Mark 5 here to check out the speeds of the SSD there, the 250 gigabyte one. So you see the write speeds there aren't the greatest. They're a little bit slow there, and they read the 4K reads, but even so, sequential reads are good, but the 4Ks not so good. So I can hear the fan now. It's just come on because I'm pushing it a little bit with this benchmark, and it is very, very quiet at the moment. I imagine it's just one of the two fans. There's actually two in there, one larger fan and one smaller one. And I do think that one of those fans will only work just for the CPU. And I think when you start to game, then that's when the second one will come on, so it can really start to push the hot air out. So that's the unboxing there, and my first look at it. The initial impressions are very good. Now the cons of it, you can see straight away that yes, it's in Chinese. That's not good. So you're going to have to factor in another additional amount to buy a Windows 10 license there, unless you already have one. And you're going to have to go through that hassle of installing English or whatever language you want on there, the Windows, which isn't good. And you could say that, yes, it lacks a micro or SD card slot. I'd love to have that on there so I don't have to use things like this adapter I have right here, which is a little bit of a hassle. And no touch screen on there. Really, there's not much more I can say to fault about that. 1080p, a lot of people might not be happy with only 1080p, but I do think that is well suited to the GPU that it has. Anything higher would probably be too demanding for that Nvidia 940MX. So I'm going to test out some games. So if you are interested in seeing more on this particular model, the Mi Notebook Air 13, then make sure you are subscribed and keep an eye on the playlist, because I will be pushing out some more videos covering gaming, benchmarks, fan noise, all before my full review and final verdict. Thank you so much for watching this video, and hopefully I will see you back in the channel shortly.